Badass women in confidence. How is it that some women can just set their mind on a goal and they always get that shit done? And how can we learn to become badasses like them? Welcome to Hexotica, where creative rebels, goth witches, and unconventional women and gender diverse entrepreneurs turn their chaos into power and their ideas into income. I'm your host, Christine Rice, and this is episode 18. So hello, wild ones. It's Christine here, coming to you from the world of Hexotica. If this is your first time wandering into my little corner of the internet, welcome to the Coven Signet. Drop a hey witch in the comments so that I know that you've arrived if you're watching me on YouTube. I'll follow you back if you're a content creator. And if you've been hanging out with me for the previous 17 episodes so far, then you already know the aesthetic, right? You're part of the inner circle now, the ones who don't wait for permission to create. I see you, and I'm so grateful to have you here. So today's episode is pure fire, and I am ecstatic about starting or reigniting something bold as fuck in you. We're talking about what makes a woman a badass, one of my favorite things to muse on, and more importantly, how you can become one, right? So I'm sharing some examples of badassery, some resources, some truth bombs, and maybe a few uncomfortable questions that'll light a fuse under your comfort zone, get you to take action. So if you feel like you've been lacking confidence or you haven't been achieving your goals, then this episode is for you. But today's episode is a little different. Today I am repurposing an old video that I made in my Facebook group, Marketing for Creative and Unconventional Women and Gender Diverse. But I have to apologize because the sound quality is not quite as good. So I apologize for that. And next week as well, I will also be repurposing another live video on self-reliance rituals. This is just so that I can start to get ahead with the podcast because we have had, as of today, freezing hail in Melbourne. It's supposed to be spring, but I think that spring got canceled. And so we've got freezing hail. And it's kind of weird because whenever we get a lot of rain or the weather is like this, the internet just goes really slow, even on the best plan that we've got, because I work from home and I'm on the best plan, but it's slow out here. I'm in the woods. So I need to get ahead. So I've got this live that I'm repurposing today because I'm a big believer in repurposing as well. I was a social media manager for 9 years and we purpose the shit out of things. And next week I'm repurposing the live video on self-reliance rituals. And then for episode number 20, where I do guest interviews, I have the most badass woman that I know of on Facebook right now, a friend of mine online friend. I call her friend, but you know how you know somebody for years online and then you get to be friends with them? Like it was that kind of situation. And so I've invited her on here because she has the most amazing, like what I would call a hexotic life. And she's going to talk about that. But today we're talking about badassery. So stick around. I'm opening a transformation vortex today, and you are now in it. Let's talk about how to become the badass you were always meant to be. Okay, welcome to Marketing for Creative and Unconventional Women and Gender Diverse. I'm Christine, the host of this little small but mighty group. And this week I posted a blog post on what it means to be a badass. The title of the blog post was Badass Women in Confidence. What have they got that you don't? Do you want to be a badass? Does thinking of being a badass make you feel like an egomaniac? Or is your idea of a badass maybe something a bit more internal, like mine? Now, I've been a little bit obsessed with the idea of a badass because for me, being a badass isn't about being some hot shit person that stands out above other people so much as it is about having a lot of control from within, being someone who does what she says she will do, being someone who doesn't have a lot of mental junk going on in her head, So it's my big dream to become a badass. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about as I've run my online business the past several years. But it's also my big dream to not only be a badass, but to also help other women and unconventional creatives and gender diverse people to overcome their imposter syndrome so that they can also be a badass. So today I want to talk about what a badass is, and I want to talk about how to get the confidence that a badass has, how that confidence shows up, how to use it. And then finally, I want to go over some examples of what a badass would do and how we know we are a badass. So you probably know some women in your life who are a badass. I know I've got a few different people online that I admire that I think, holy cow, they can just do anything. They just have this amazing ability to achieve any goal they set out to do, to make an impact, to make money, to become as fit as possible, to overcome any addictions or any problems that they have, relationship problems. They just seem to have this kind of resilience and strength that I admire. When I also think of someone that I know personally, to be honest, I think of my mother. My mother had incredible badassery and not having to deal with drama in her head. She just did what she had to do. She always did what she said she would do. I wish I could have been a lot like her, but unfortunately, I maybe just was a little bit more flaky growing up. So it's taken me a lot longer to learn how to do that. Actually, honestly, let me be honest. I think that if you are a mother, if you're a woman who has kids, if you're a parent, that sometimes having kids is what really gets people into action to just sort their shit out. They don't have time to think about what it is that they need to do. They just do stuff. But if you're like me, who is a childless woman in her 40s, or you've chosen not to have children, or you're just trying to work on a really big dream, you really want to become a badass so that you can achieve these big dreams of yours, right? So I want to talk about what it is that we can do to try to get that confidence. So first of all, a badass is definitely not someone who is just acting like they're better than other people or that they're totally hot shit. That's not it. A badass for me is personal power. Maybe you have a different definition, but when I think of badassery, I think of personal agency. I think of someone who could just set a goal and go out there and do it. And also someone who has integrity, someone who, when she sets a plan for herself, she does everything that she planned to do. And that reflects also on how the world sees her. So if I say that I'm going to show up at noon live in my group every Friday, I'm here. I want to make sure that I do that, whether I have to get through some tech issues or not. If I say that I'm going to write an email every week, I will do that. So growing into a badass who can stick to her plans and do everything that she says will be a slow process for some of us. I know it has been for me, especially if you struggle with overwhelm or procrastination when you have your big dream and you're just like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get everything done? Right? I have struggled with that feeling myself, so I know how that feels. And I feel like I've come a long way over the years with overcoming a lot of the obstacles within myself. Because really that's what we're talking about. So confidence is not something that we can just get through waving a magic wand, right? It's not something that we have to wait around for. It's not going to just appear. We can't pretend our way into confidence either. I know people like to say, fake it till you make it, and that works to a degree. But if we really want to have strong confidence within, I think that there are two types of confidence, and you need that first type, which is self-trust. The whole foundation of badassery and confidence begins with a strong degree of self-trust. And in the marketing and business world, over the last 8 years, as I've been a social media manager and I've taken all kinds of courses and done all kinds of different coaching programs and stuff, I've seen what people talk about. It seems to me that it's not often procrastination or overwhelm or not knowing what to do that is the main obstacle with people wanting to do something online, like start a side hustle or business. It is self-trust. When people say, I don't know where to start, when they feel overwhelmed, when they struggle with procrastination, I want to say that the bottom line that I believe that the problem is that you just don't trust yourself. Because we live in a world with so much information, right? We're actually drowning in information. If you wanted to learn how to go and create a sales funnel, you could go out and find a million courses to do that, a million YouTube videos. It's all there. Like, you could be reading books and courses for years and still not do it. The problem often is not a lack of information or resources or not knowing how to do something step by step. It's the self-trust to get started to do the step-by-step thing. So at some point in my business, after many years of studying, like, all these notebooks here are full of my notes from books and courses and YouTube videos that I've watched and podcasts, I realized that no coach, no course, nothing else that I could purchase was actually going to help me to get started, that I actually just had to begin to trust that I knew enough to do it on my own, that I was capable. So I like to call this first type of confidence, which is about self-trust, cygnet confidence. Cygnet is a baby swan. So it's kind of like your little ugly duckling trying to get through life. All your fears of doing things, your impostor syndrome makes you an ugly duckling. I call them ugly duckling fears. So I like to use the metaphor of a swan to think of when we're first starting out, we're learning to swim, we're flapping our little cygnet wings, and we're trying to get through this absolute drowning amount of information and resources. And we're just trying to find our way, trying to get our businesses up, trying to find out who we are, how we can work, to understand our own mind. And so cygnet confidence is about developing the self-trust. And you can only really do this through doing experiments with yourself. For me, it took many, many years of understanding that I was never going to be a morning bird. I was always going to struggle with getting up really early. I'm a night owl. I work best at like 9 or 10 o'clock. That's when my brain actually goes, I want to work, and I can easily work until 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night if I wanted to. But I can get up somewhat early, but I'm just not going to be one of these people that get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to a gym. I have tried so many times. The only thing that made me do that was when I was at ROTC in high school, but I absolutely had to. But when you work for yourself, it's a lot harder. So I give myself the grace of working with my own brain, which I also think might be ADHD addled, and understanding myself more and more to know what works best for me. And this is what I think every one of us who wants to do a side hustle or online business or whatever it is that you want to do with your big dream, you've got to really get to know yourself on a deep, deep level and to know what works for you. And you got to do tests and experiments. And you can have a great coach or take a great course that gives you lots of good recommendations, and you could try it out. But in the end, you have to kind of cherry pick what will work for you, and you have to be the one to make it work. So self-trust takes time, but I think once you start to have that foundation of self-trust, then you can move on to the second type of self-trust, which is an outward expression of your ability to do whatever it is that you want. So now you are able to trust yourself. You know that when you set a schedule from 9 to 5 or however your hours are, mine are 10 to 7, that you're going to do everything on that time block schedule because you have set a plan for yourself and you have the integrity and the self-trust to not disappoint yourself. So you're getting through your schedule. You are smashing goals. You've gotten a lot more consistent with the main thing that you're focusing on. Maybe it's emails or whatever it is. And you're able to start stretching yourself a little bit so that you can do a little bit more consistently and you can trust that you'll get it done. So this kind of confidence is what I call swan confidence. This is when you are a swan swimming through life. You have figured yourself out. You have figured out what makes you tick, what makes you work best. And you have this deep self-trust that whatever it is out there that you want to do, you can do it. You can smash a goal. So swan self-trust and swan confidence might also take a bit of time to learn to believe, because it can only happen as you take action. We can only get the confidence that we get from swan confidence through courage and taking action. Now, courage requires a leap of faith. This is where I think people get stuck because they might begin to have trust in themselves. They might begin to have a lot more confidence. They're starting to swim a bit, but they will still struggle with fears to do things that are new, that they're afraid of, they're not really sure of. And they'll get stuck not taking simple actions again and again, or taking big actions to really have the evidence in your life that you are confident. So this kind of confidence requires that you take action and you are brave enough to do something and feel that you're capable of doing something without any evidence available at the time. So this is the real issue with overcoming imposter syndrome, I think. Like, you want to start a business, for example, and you don't have the evidence of having a lot of engagement or followers or people showing up to your live. There's no evidence that you are ever going to become the thing that you want to become, that you have what's inside of you to do that, right? But you have to do it anyway. You have to have the courage to show up for yourself with the signet confidence. The self-trust and the courage combined are what can make you truly a badass after time. You have to have that leap of faith to be able to bet on yourself when no one else would, or no one else will, because no one else will practically. You have to bet on yourself and take a risk and believe in something that there is no evidence of. It is absolute faith to keep showing up for yourself and to keep believing in a big dream and to keep trying to make it happen when there is zero evidence of it. That is real courage. And often we think of things that we're afraid of, like public speaking or making cold calls or closing a sales call. Those are things that we might be terrified of, that we'll think of courage. But I often think that courage is often little things too. It's the courage to continue to show up for a live talk when no one shows up. It's the courage to continue to talk about big dreams when you might think people are going to think you're delusional. It's the courage to not care what people think. So that's the two types of courage, the signet confidence and the swan confidence, that you need to combine to become a true badass. I wrote in my blog also some other types of courage. If you want to read the blog, I'll leave the link here. That another type of courage might be simply to disappoint people. I see a lot of mothers, for example, having this guilt where they don't want to leave their children in daycare, or they feel like they're being bad mothers if they're focusing on something that's for themselves. That is also a type of courage, to be able to prioritize yourself and to have boundaries. So we've got to be able to combine those two types of courage to become a badass. So now let's talk about what are badass examples of true confidence and badassery. So here's a list of what I think is a true badass. Foremost, she has integrity. She does what she says she will do. She doesn't automatically say yes to invites, for example, because she knows that she has to take a pause with her commitments and be able to 100% show up for the people that she says yes to. So I was really flaky in the past, and I would immediately say, oh yeah, I'm going to come to that party, or yeah, I'm going to do that. I've had to really slow down that wanting to people please or getting overly excited about anything, and to really start to ask myself, is it 100% possible for me to show up? Am I 100% sure that I can show up? So my new policy is I'm not going to say that I'm going to go to someone's party or show up for anything until like 2 days before at the earliest, because my life is so busy now and I've got a lot of other commitments sometimes that just get in the way. And I want to be someone of integrity. I don't want to be that person that always says that she will come to something and then never shows up. I don't want to be the kind of person who makes a plan and can't commit to it. So that's one of the first things, is she takes her schedule very seriously, and she will check it first so that she knows that she can commit to it. Integrity is a huge factor for me in badassery. She is disciplined. She has learned to override her pleasure impulses and to keep her brain focused. Discipline starts on a very micro level. I think it's very micro habits, knowing when to make a decision that is going to further your big goals and you of the future, and to override the impulse of distraction or taking the easier route or of procrastination. These are all kind of mental weaknesses, I think, and we have to develop a kind of anti-fragility in our minds to become better business people, to become people that can transform into new people. So I've worked really hard on this, and I have to be honest that one area that I feel like I've made amazing progress is with two kind of buffering addictions. I call them buffering because it's like you get stuck in that little round. That's one of my favorite life coach uses buffering as an example. And it's when I want to either spend hours staying up late, procrastinating, watching TikTok videos, or I've had a stressful day and I want to grab a bottle of wine. So in the past, when I was a freelancer, my first few years, I drank a lot and probably way too much. And I got this habit of dealing with my stress with drinking. And over the years, I really kind of had to ask myself, like, what's going on? What is it? Is it that I really need? How can I become more aware of this trigger, like a Friday night trigger, or I've had a stressful day, or around 3 or 4 o'clock when I haven't done enough? That'll be a trigger for me to want to drink. So discipline starts with noticing your thoughts and feelings and being able to act on your thoughts and feelings in a way that will always serve you. That's what I think discipline is. It's that choice that we have moment to moment to do something that either is going to be more of what our left brain wants or less of what we want. So discipline is definitely a badass trait. For me, a very badass woman will have a lot of discipline. She doesn't get caught up in dramas, not in her own head, not in other people's lives. She has strategies for figuring out all her problems. Any problem that you have in your life, you can come up with a strategy. So for example, if motivation or procrastination is a problem, as it was with me, you get to know your own brain. When I learned that I might have ADHD, it completely changed my life. And I learned that gamification was the number one way that I can feel motivated to do something. So now I gamify everything. If I have a problem in my life, I ask myself, how can I gamify it? And that helps me get discipline. Next up is a badass will always achieve her goals. She is a doer, not a dreamer. And she's always doing amazing shit. A badass in my mind is someone who she can say, I'm going to go and I'm going to make, $5,000 from this offer. And she goes and does it. She sets a goal of 100K, 200K, and she goes out and does it. One of my favorite life coaches set a goal of 50 million. She did it. Like, these are true badasses that can do that. She can do amazing shit. And for for us less high achievers, if you feel that you have set goals before and you just haven't got them, you've consistently failed yourself, my advice would be to start setting goals a bit smaller. You want to build the self-trust that you can achieve goals. And after you start to have that self-trust, it will help you have the confidence and the identity to then go after bigger goals. So I've had to be, a little like rein in some of my goals and some of my delusional ideas in the past. I still have big, amazing delusional dreams, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm actually working with much smaller goals so that I can know that I can beat them. And if I don't reach those goals, I can look back and I can ask myself, what strategy do I need? What is the problem here? Why am I getting in my own way again? All right. The next aspect of a badass, in my opinion, is that she is a feminist. This is a huge one because I think often that the conversation around women having confidence is in often a patriarchal context. Like, you can be the only woman in office and think that maybe confidence is what you lack. But maybe it's not what you like. Maybe it's that you need to understand that you are in a male-dominated office and men have different ways of speaking and talking than you do. So maybe the answer isn't that you interrupt more often or speak in a deeper tone or have a more aggressive way of being, but that you embrace how you speak in the context of a male-dominated space. I don't think that you can be a badass woman if you are a doormat, if you don't understand that we are in a patriarchal society, if you don't understand feminism, if you don't call yourself a feminist. These women that think that somehow all the rights that they are enjoying now are just going to continue on without having to fight for them or be aware of them. Like, come on, look at what's happening in the US right now. There's a systematic attack on the rights that we have fought so hard to get. So you cannot be a badass woman. I'm sorry if you are a doormat and you're not a feminist. And if you're afraid of calling her a feminist, get over yourself. Like, you have to understand the political context that you are in. And a badass does that. A badass has the emotional and social IQ to understand the context that she's in and to understand the power dynamics, because she's a badass and she understands her personal power. So of course, she's going to understand the power dynamics outside of her. So she's a feminist. And the last example of a badass is that she doesn't give a F. I don't want to say it actually on camera because I don't want to offend people and I don't want to get bleeped out by the places I want to put this video. So she doesn't give a F. She's someone who cares what the people that she cares about think about her to a degree, but she does not give a F of what the people that she doesn't care about, who are not in her world, think about her, because she is on her own path and she is confident in her values. She knows who she is. She knows what her lifestyle is, what she wants to do with her life, what her goals or what her purpose is. She is on that path and she doesn't give a F what people have to say about it. So for example, last week when I did the Money Manifesting Live, I did a little promotion for that newsletter on one of my Facebook pages. And I got absolutely trolled by evangelical Christians, giving me all of their scriptures and telling me that I was demonic or evil and witchcraft was wrong. It was fabulous. I loved it because it was great engagement. I have fun with those people. I don't give a rat's ass what an evangelical Christian thinks about me, because I don't give a rat's ass about Christianity. And I think that most people that follow Christianity to the book are absolute sheep. And being a badass is breaking away from the herd. It's having your own mind. And you can't really be a badass if you believe in religion. You can be a badass if you're spiritual, however. You don't need religion to be spiritual. I did a blog post called Badass Women Don't Need Religion. That was my first post that I did on being a badass, because to me, religion is the biggest cock blocker to being a badass. So, you don't need to care what other people think unless they're people that you care about. You've got people that really care about you and they are like hammering like worries and anxieties about your choices, like the guy that you're going out with, or what are you going to do with your life? Then you should probably listen to them and care what they think. But most people, majority of the people in this world don't care about, like, we can't afford to care what all these people think. You have to have a little bit of like healthy ego, in that you are content and happy to be yourself and to do your own thing, and you're not really, not really overly concerned with the opinions of other people. Who cares? So, saying that, I wanted to invite you to a new 10 email newsletter sequence that I have just launched, which is called Badass Women Don't Give a F. This is all about the traits of a badass woman. And what it is we go through badass women from history. So 10 different women in history who were absolute badasses and how they have proven that and what we can learn from them. So if you want to sign up for that, I'll leave the link anywhere around this video, wherever you're seeing it. It is only 10. It's just a seasonal kind of newsletter for fun. And it is for any women who want to become a badass or unconventional gender diverse creative. whatever you might call yourself. This is a feminist newsletter, though, so you can be anything as long as you are a feminist. It is for you if you want to be a badass like I do. I am absolutely dead set to be a badass. Someone who, again, to review what I've just talked about, has self-trust, does what she says she will do, and also has the courage to take a leap of faith on herself, to take a risk, to bet on herself, and to believe that she is capable of doing something. So I hope that this has been an inspiring and encouraging conversation for you, especially if you're someone who, like me, used to struggle with a lot of procrastination, struggle with setting goals and actually reaching them. You have to work on yourself, and it is very possible to do that. You have it within you to do that. All the answers are within you. I do believe that all the answers in life are within us, even with our connection with Source or Universe or God or however you want to call this beautiful life force around us. We don't need religion to connect to that. All of the answers are right here, and you can be the badass that you want. You can have the amazing alternative lifestyle and side hustle and dream and the self-reliance, financial freedom that you want all within. I'm on this path to find that for myself, and I want to encourage you and help you to do that too. So thank you so much for watching, whether you're live or you're watching the replay. I've had a lot of fun with this one. And if you have any questions or comments, come into my Facebook group, Marketing for Creative and Unconventional Women and Gender Diverse. Thank you very much, you fellow badasses, and I will see you later. Bye.